Today on the Roxom Report London, the dollar dips to its lowest point in 3 years. We're going to discuss why new technologies are choosing to build on the Bitcoin blockchain. All of that, plus we'll be joined by Stefania Barbaglio and Susie Violet Ward to give us their takes on today's stories, right here on the Roxom Report London. Good afternoon and welcome to the Roxom Report. We're coming to you live from the heart of London to give you our takes on the latest and greatest Bitcoin news. Today, we are thrilled to welcome Stefania Barbaglio, an accomplished entrepreneur, investor, and PR marketing visionary. Stefania is the founder and director of Cassiopeia Services, an award-winning boutique investor and public relations agency that operates at the intersection of finance and technology. As the founder and host of the Financial Fox multimedia platform and podcast, Stefania connects with industry leaders to explore alternative investing, cryptocurrencies, and artificial intelligence. Additionally, Stefania is also an angel investor, an advocate for blockchain innovation, and the founder of the Crypto Circle Club, an exclusive network for leaders and investors in the digital asset space. With a unique combination of business strategy, PR, expertise, and a passion for empowering the next generation of entrepreneurs, Stefania is also a mentor for AI Forge, helping guide the development of AI startups that are solving real-world challenges. Wow, that's incredible. Hey, Stefania, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
We actually had to cut the intro down because there's so many amazing things that you've done, and I'm like, I got to get to you at some point. How do you take on all these things? What an amazing kind of career and journey.
Yeah, it's interesting because you see like disrupting technologies coming along, and you see the impact that they are having, and that's you kind of want to get involved, right? So when I started Cassiopeia in 2015, I was just doing the boring oil and gas, gold, kind of like work with publicly listed companies, and then. For some reason, I stumbled into Bitcoin, and I was helping a client that was actually changing the name of his company to adding blockchain, and all the stocks gone up and stuff like that. And it was very exciting. I said, "Oh God, this is really cool. I want to know what's that."
Yeah.
And that was back in late 2016, 17, and I just got down the rabbit hole, and I couldn't come back.
That's
I discovered a new world, and I said, this is really game changing, not just from a financial perspective, monetary perspective, empowering perspective for people as well. And then, you kind of start to really understand how these technologies can really improve our lives. And that's also drive my interest into AI a couple of years after.
Interesting. So you work with clients, so you're doing PR for clients that are in this space. Is that you're sort of helping them with launches of certain products and things like that, helping them raise funding? Is that kind of?
Yeah. So I run a small agency. What we do, we really help companies to craft the right message, to position themselves, to go after investors as well. Obviously connecting with the media, shape the message, and also look for partnerships and people they could work with. So it's not really I would say a specific package.
Okay.
Is more flexible and really depends on what the clients need. Do we want to work with him, with her? So it's very, very customized. I've done a lot of work in the investment space, in the policy space as well, and then obviously in the PR and marketing media industry as well.
Yeah. Would you say, like, what percentage of your, because you said you started in the boring oil and gas and gold, what percentage would you say your clients are in Bitcoin now?
Oh, now it's just basically tech, and I would say 90% is Bitcoin,
Wow.
But at the beginning it was real world assets. That's why I'm also very interested on how we can actually bridge these assets to to new technologies. But yeah, the beginning was oil and gas, easy story, drill the well, you know, you find oil, stock goes up, everybody's happy and makes money, and you don't find oil and everybody lose, you know. And gold was also very interesting. I was always a big fan of gold, you know, as a hedge against inflation, as a, you know, a real assets that appreciate over time. But it was so interesting to see how Bitcoin came about, especially, you know, in the public markets, and then it has evolved. Whereas now there is the Bitcoin treasury frenzy happening, you know, even here in the UK public markets. So it's very interesting to watch all of that. And what is, how can I say, you can see that hype cycle. When a trend is in, everybody wants to copy. You don't know how many calls I've got over the last months of companies. Oh, we want to have a Bitcoin strategy. You know, can you
I've
help?
been saying this for years.
Excuse me, no clue what digital assets are. And they just want to jump on the bandwagon because Bitcoin is cool and all, you know, the Smart Web Company or Coincilium, they just go up, you know, like 100%. But this is not sustainable. You're not going to get anywhere. In fact, yesterday everything collapsed. So, you know, you need to, if you're building a company, you're not building on a hype. You are building a company that is sustainable. But, you know, it seems like, you know, it's a difficult message to get across. Especially when you are dealing with investors, you need to build a narrative that keep them interested all the time. So, right, our narrative is not getting the stock up anymore. Investors are not buying this. So what can we do to make it sexy? Well, let's go into Bitcoin.
Wow.
Right.
How did it work? Like, because you've been sort of doing this for a while. So you've got people coming to you with the hype because now they want to jump on the bandwagon. What happened in the times where there were the big dips? How did you, like, what was
tough.
That's
very tough. So COVID was very difficult for me because that's where I kind of pivot all my company towards Bitcoin and digital assets. And before COVID, I was doing really a lot of natural resources. I would say most of the business was still there because that was the public market in the UK was mainly, you know, big oil and gas companies. And so what I did, I started to develop a YouTube channel, The Financial Fox, where I was getting on once a week some interesting guests in the digital asset space, in the crypto space, call it like that, and start to learn, you know, get them to share what they were doing. And that way I kind of built a really good network. And then I started to do events, and then you kind of slowly pivot, but it's not easy. So when there is a bear market, obviously, the crypto company has got no money to deploy, right? And PR is getting harder and harder because people have got social media where they need PR, you know? So I think this industry is really struggling at the moment. So what I did, I said, right, let's find something else that we can leverage on. And then at some point, you know, we got more into AI. And it's difficult. You always, as an entrepreneur, you always need to reinvent yourself and you need to keep doing pivots.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because first of all, you have a team that you need to look after. You have salaries to pay, you have got costs, and you can't just say, oh, the client just gone, I need to sack you. You know what I mean? So that is, it's just being resourceful and kind of like moving along with what you believe has got legs and can be a very exciting opportunity to join.
Yeah. I always feel quite strongly about just jobs and careers and things that I've had, income streams over the years, diversification, and just having that, because there's been certain times where like a rental business has, you know, had to stop, or like certain type of work has completely dried up, and just being able to adapt and pivot, like you say, has really helped to get me through some of the tough times when things aren't going so well. So it's great,
And that's why so many things.
Yeah.
I've also been
and that explains your introduction,
and I'm also on the board of an insurtech company listed on the London stock market.
An insurtech?
An insurtech. So we have a device that measures water leaks in houses. So it basically detects if there is a water leak. And I was an investor and also a member of the board. So that doesn't have anything to do with crypto.
But,
you know,
very different.
Else.
Yeah, I like it. You mentioned that you sort of brought people together in the policy space and held events. Tell me about that, and any successes or wins with that, or was it more just sort of what's the word, networking and bringing people together?
So that was very interesting because I was watching how the UK was trying to understand digital assets, and they started to launch, I think it was 2021 or beginning 2022, so those crypto sprints organized by the FCA. And
sorry, what were the crypto sprints?
They were like some initiatives by the FCA where they were inviting digital assets founders to do some kind of workshop and understand what the industry was doing, because obviously the FCA is coming from a completely different perspective and very old school and all this crypto stuff. Oh God! So I said, right, I want to do something more interesting. Let's bring investors, let's bring founders, let's bring policymakers and politicians to kind of discuss that, doing some kind of discussion and some networking. So I ran the crypto circle for quite a few years. And I remember Matt Hancock being one of my first speaker guests and talking about how the UK, they wanted to make the UK a crypto hub, right? And that was back in the days. They're still saying that now, and nothing has happened.
I don't really understand how they're saying that. I mean, is it just one person saying that, and everybody else is like, no, because they're not really doing much?
After him, I invited other people, and they exactly saying the same things. You know, we are going to make the UK the biggest, crypto hub, and obviously London and the UK has always been at the center of financial markets. So. But has lost that kind of image over years because there's been no execution. So the politicians and whatever people are in power, they always said that we want to embrace this technology, but the result is being doing these events to learn, running sandbox where you never get out of the sandbox, doing maybe a few things, but there hasn't been an execution to bring things forward. There you saw the complete opposite with Trump. He got in, and in the next 100 days, he have done A, B, C, D. He surrounded himself with the people that understand the crypto industry. He got advice. He gave power to them to actually implement. He completely changed, the people they are taking decision, and he actually got some really good development down the line.
It's unbelievably fast how all of it has happened. So it shows that it's definitely possible. We keep talking about how Texas having a Bitcoin reserve, and like over the space of a few days, it's like, oh, they just passed the bill. Oh, they're just funding it now. Oh, like every single day. And so things don't have to be, years in the making for things to happen. What
are we doing here in the UK?
I don't know.
Nothing. And the only problem, the main problem is about education.
Yes.
What people, I think it's very difficult to, I don't know, maybe difficult to understand or whatever, invest into education is the first things that actually the government should do. And it's great. I mean, the bill that Nigel Farage released, I think it was during the Bitcoin Vegas conference, was great. But I thought this is never going to happen if you don't prioritize education.
Interesting. Well, I can't wait to get, as we're going to be joined by Susie Violet Ward after the break, because she's in talks with his assistant, and like literally it's as if I have exactly the same conversations coming from her. You guys are so in alignment. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back after that, getting into the news and joined by our guest, Susie Violet Ward. We'll see you shortly.
Security matters. Zappo Bank, the only way to bank your Bitcoin. Apply now at zappobank.com.
Welcome back, everyone. Let's get started with the biggest Bitcoin story making waves today. This is Top of the Block.
Okay.
The US dollar is showing signs of weakness, and Bitcoin is surging once again. According to analysts, the US dollar index, which measures the dollar's strength against other major currencies, is now at its lowest point in over 3 years. That's despite recent geopolitical tensions, which usually push investors towards safer assets like the dollar. This time, that didn't happen. Macroeconomist Lynn Alden noted that the dollar barely got any flight to safety bid, even after conflict broke out between Iran and Israel. Other analysts say fiat is fading, meaning traditional currencies like the US dollar are losing their appeal. Meanwhile, Bitcoin is climbing, trading at around $107,000 after briefly dropping below $100,000 on Sunday. Some analysts believe Bitcoin could soon test its all-time high of near $111,000. Crypto analysts say the bulls are in control and that Bitcoin's strong performance in the face of rising global risk is a sign of changing investor behavior. One even compared today's environment to the early 2000s, when investors shifted away from the dollar and toward high-growth emerging markets. This time, they say, Bitcoin is becoming the new emerging market. At the same time, President Donald Trump is stepping up pressure on the Federal Reserve. Speaking at a NATO summit, Trump called Fed Chair Jerome Powell an average mentally person with a low IQ. He also said Powell is terrible at his job and confirmed he's already picked out a short list of replacements. Trump has been frustrated that the Fed hasn't cut interest rates, arguing that high rates are costing the government billions. But Powell pushed back, warning that Trump's proposed tariffs could raise inflation. He says cutting rates too soon could risk another surge in prices. Some of Powell's own colleagues disagree. Two Trump-appointed Fed officials say tariffs won't drive up prices for long and believe the Fed should start cutting rates soon to protect the job market. For now, the Fed is holding steady, but pressure is still building from all sides. Oof. Susie, considering I've lost my place. Apologies for that. What do you make of all of this?
So, first of all, is my mic working?
Is Susie's mic working?
Okay.
I think so.
Okay,
we haven't been told otherwise.
That's brilliant. Okay, fantastic. I think every time there's some sort of instability, Bitcoin rallies. It always will.
Yeah.
It used to be a risk-off asset. Now it's a flight to safety. And I think that as currencies blow up all around the world, and they will eventually, just at different rates, everything will bleed into the US dollar, but everything will bleed into Bitcoin, and I think it will become the unofficial reserve currency of the world.
Yeah, we've heard about this, like Elon Musk and various different people saying that Bitcoin will become the default, current whatever, and like all of the dollars on its way out, and it's not doing very well. So it's kind of like going in that direction.
Yeah, and I think it will. I mean, we've got the internet. We need a money that's inherent to the internet. We've got a global, borderless, peer-to-peer cash that's outside of governmental control that you can send to anybody on the planet with a mobile phone for a fraction of a penny instantly.
Yeah.
So it's just the perfect solution, really, and I just don't see how these other currencies can compete, especially when you've got central banks that are printing money, debasing currencies. You have countries like Lebanon and Argentina and Zimbabwe that have suffered. We think that because we have known relative stability in the UK, that it can't happen to us. But we have come out of a period of high inflation. I think we'll go into another period of high inflation. I don't think the inflationary figures that they're talking about are actually accurate. I think they're fudging the figures so that we feel a little bit better. But at the end of the day, inflation is another form of tax, and it's just another way of stealing your time and your energy. And I think once people understand that, everything will bleed into Bitcoin.
Stefania, what's your take on this?
If I'm looking kind of like more the medium term, I still see the fiat system carry on alongside with a more adoption of Bitcoin. And I see Bitcoin emerging more like in a cyber weapon in a way. So definitely Bitcoin will get adopted more, but it's not going to replace fiat in the middle, kind of like, short, medium term for sure. Maybe these two systems are going to carry on. And then you see that who owns Bitcoin he will be definitely in a better position. But Bitcoin comes with responsibility. That's what people, I think, need to understand, because you know, you need to custody your. It's just an asset. That is a new asset, like the Inter comes with responsibility, you know, your data, right? Is all that kind of thing. So there are a lot of aspects that needs to be taken in consideration for this shift happening. But if I look at the future, definitely I see a bigger value in Bitcoin, and we are all here saying how, you know, important is these assets from different perspective. But the fiat system, it will still be there, maybe worse, but it will also evolve as well, and that's maybe where the stablecoin has got some kind of role.
Interesting. Where do you think, because some of the predictions were, I think it was 10 years, I can't remember if it was Elon Musk, there were a couple of people talking about it, like 10 years, the dollar will be dead. Do you think that that's possible? No?
I personally don't.
No, I agree with you. I think short to medium term, you know, it's not going to blow up. And I think the different currencies will blow up at different rates. And I think the US dollar will be the last one to blow up. And it might not even happen in our lifetime. It's very much a long-term thing. But when it happens, I think it will be really fast and really quick. I don't think it will be 10 years. That's not to say that it couldn't be 10 years. It could.
We never know.
Yeah,
And
so
COVID
much.
happened, and who thought? But the things that definitely is going to happen is that many crypto projects will definitely die and disappear. That's for sure. Beyond Bitcoin, you know, there is a vast array of, you know, different assets. And having gone through that journey, so I started with Bitcoin, I went around the world exploring all the others, I got back to Bitcoin, and I do believe that many of them, sadly, because people will lose money, they are going to go to zero.
Yeah, you don't see there being a place for Bitcoin and Ethereum, for example.
Oh no, if you look at a pair chart with Bitcoin and Ethereum, Ethereum just goes down. I think they're all going to zero. I think all cryptos will go to zero. I think everything will bleed into Bitcoin, and people will understand that Bitcoin is the decentralized protocol that's actually got the solutions. That is the innovation, not blockchain. Blockchain is not the innovation. It's Bitcoin. It's finite supply. It's proof of work. And I think once people understand that, they'll only be wanting to build on Bitcoin.
Would it be possible for someone to come along and create a different Bitcoin? Is that even a thing? Like
Yeah,
a
they've
similar?
tried. They've even forked Bitcoin.
Interesting.
They've forked Bitcoin a couple of times, and if it doesn't have the network effect and people don't adopt it, then it's pretty much worthless, isn't it?
Yeah. And now we're so far ahead with Bitcoin. Who's going to really want to?
And people think that Bitcoin is the first cryptocurrency. It was 40 years of lots of different technologies that led to Bitcoin. Bitcoin is not the first one. It's just the first one that did everything that it needed to do. It's the first one that kind of successfully worked and created what we now see today. But actually, it was 40 years of innovation that led us to that point.
That'd be great to deep dive into the history of that actually at a later point. And I'm also curious to hear about your journey around the world with crypto and coming back to Bitcoin. Would you mind like just sort of sharing, like was it working with different companies? Was it dabbling in investing in different?
It was both of them, both of these things. So was 2018, that's when it started. And you know, there was this ICO boom.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And I remember we kind of help different with my company. We have different companies that were coming up with this token. They were not even listed on a decentralized exchange. At least in 2021 they were.
Yeah,
I could sell them in a way. But at the time, you know, I think it was a big realization that really it was a big hype. And so we kind of like went through the ICO boom, and then obviously there was the DeFi and the NFTs. I got a few NFTs that, you know, now are worth you know, quite a lot of money, and now you can't even sell them, or you know, you need to give them away. So it's been but I think it's been a very interesting journey, because that's where you learn about the cycle. You learn what's happened with these hypes. And that's how then you come back to Bitcoin with a different awareness and with a different conviction. And what is kind of hilarious to see, looking at other people just dipping into Bitcoin right now, because they don't understand these cycles, they don't understand the hypes. They just want to do things, but without that understanding, and that gets them to make mistakes. And I'm saying from a policy perspective, from a capital markets perspective, from a founder's perspective, from an investor perspective as well. I lost a lot of money in projects that went virtually to zero. And some, they were great. So at the end of the day, with investment, is like you need to have a few good winners, and then you make up for all the other losses. But when you see more people coming into the space, then you see kind of the excitement, want to do it, and then the way they talk, right? Something getting, when we talk about crypto, and also certain form, even in the Bitcoin space, there are also people, they only stress and try to sell you things, right? They are just over positive on stuff, even like the Bitcoin treasury companies, the way that you assess the premium of a company. You have to be very careful, because it's not just about, buy as many Bitcoin as you can. Can your business sustain that? Do you have capability to raise capital and don't go below your NAV? So these things are, some people don't understand it, and just because they haven't been through the cycles.
Right, and that's where mistakes can happen in a way.
Many.
Okay, well, let's cut to a quick commercial break. We have a few other segments, but I want to get back to these stories because it's great hearing both of your perspectives on this. So we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back with the global gist.
Security matters. Zappo Bank, the only way to bank your Bitcoin. Apply now at zappobank.com.
Welcome back to the Global Gist. Here's what's making news around the world today. First up, Bitcoin is taking center stage again, not just as a digital currency, but as the main platform for crypto innovation. That's according to longtime investor Tim Draper, who says Bitcoin is now absorbing the best ideas from the rest of the crypto world. In a recent post on social media, Draper compared the shift to what happened during the early software boom. Back then, Microsoft took over by bundling popular tools like spreadsheets and word processors into one platform. He says Bitcoin is doing something similar today. Features that used to belong to similar crypto projects like smart contracts, decentralized finance, layer 2 networks that help lower fees are now being built on top of Bitcoin. Even NFT-style digital assets known as ordinals are showing up on the Bitcoin network. Draper pointed to Bitcoin's growing dominance as proof. That's a measure of its share of the entire crypto market. It was about 40% after the 2017 crash and 50% after the 2021 high. Now it's over 60% and climbing. He says developers are following the trend. More of them are choosing to build on Bitcoin, not just because they believe in it, but because it has the tools and the support they need. Draper runs a startup accelerator called Boost VC that focuses on Bitcoin-based projects. He says the next generation of crypto entrepreneurs is treating Bitcoin as the foundation for new ideas, whether they're launching apps, financial tools, or other blockchain services. In his words, smart entrepreneurs are always building on the platform with the strongest gravitational pull. That platform is Bitcoin. If this trend continues, Bitcoin may become not just the original crypto, but the central hub for everything that comes next. Wow. So, Stefania, I'm going to take it to you for this one because you kind of have the tech experience. So Tim Draper says Bitcoin is becoming the hub for crypto innovation. How do you see the shift, this shift affecting the future of tech? And are there any projects that you've been involved with where you've kind of seen this?
Well, he's talking a lot about Bitcoin and layer 2s and NFTs and all these words don't make sense to me anymore. So obviously I see the Bitcoin network. We are still very early. There is a lot from when it comes to like an infrastructure side that needs to be developed. From a payment perspective, I think it was the ex-CEO of Twitter helped me.
Jack Dorsey
saying that Bitcoin will fail if it's not going to become the next payment, the next layer for payment, and I do agree with that. So there is that kind of layer, so that's Bitcoin, and then there is the fiat system. That's it, and then you can build all the kind of like different kind of solution. They try to make the fiat system more blockchain, but it's still a fiat system, right? Private blockchain, a private blockchain. Many other projects, they are still centralized, so that's another fiat system. That is the same. So there is Bitcoin, and there is that, and then there is some kind of like experimentation in the middle. Bitcoin is not there yet, but it will, and that's the way I see it. It's great to have investors like Tim Draper and many others. They are kind of putting money into this evolution, and because you need to invest, you need to get founders to work on it and come up with solution. Then they fail, then there is the next one. There is always a learning process, right? We learn a lot from the failures of DeFi, from NFTs as well. Ordinals has been great. It's hard on Bitcoin. That's what it is, but there were many other things that just went to zero, and I know because I'm investing in it. So
yeah, I don't know if either of you can help me like get my head around this, but what does it mean when you build smart contracts or NFTs on the Bitcoin platform? Like, what does that mean practically?
We've got the Bitcoin base layer.
Okay.
And it can handle about 7 transactions per second. That's not going to provide a service to everybody using Bitcoin.
Right.
So we will have to build solutions on Bitcoin to kind of help it grow so it can service these people. So, for example, the Lightning Network. The Lightning Network allows you to send very small amounts of payments to anybody for a very small amount and very, very quickly. You wouldn't want to do that on the base chain. And I think in the future, I don't think anyone will ever use the base chain. I think that they'll be using the solutions that we build on top. And we talk about centralization and decentralization, and we think of Bitcoin as being decentralized. It is decentralized, but there are centralization risks. So the way that I would like to see things in the future is that I would like, providing the base layer staying sufficiently decentralized, I think we'll have to build solutions on top of it that will have varying degrees of centralization. And it will depend, you will have to decide on the trade-off. But it will be your choice. So there are solutions that are being built on it. Tim Draper's absolutely right. The Bitcoin dominance is now at 65%. Everything is bleeding into Bitcoin. And people, they're realizing, as you said, that all of these cryptos are going to zero. And you said, what's an NFT? What are these words? What do they mean? Yeah. They're largely meaningless. Like, you absolutely nailed it. And so, providing, look, everything will have to get built on Bitcoin. Providing the base layer stays decentralized, we're going to have a multitude of solutions. What that looks like, I don't know. But
I don't know yet. It's too early
everyone's
to tell.
going to be building on Bitcoin.
Yeah. What other, how would it be possible for Bitcoin for the base layer to become centralized? What could potentially happen there?
Okay. There's 4 things that concern me. The first one is the centralization of mining pools.
This is when too many, the mining is controlled by a small, a bigger slice of the pie.
So you wouldn't say, if you had a very small miner, you wouldn't want to just mine on your own. You'd want to point your hash rate to a mining pool so that you could join everybody else's hash rate. And if that mining pool mines a block, then you share the rewards. So at the moment, there are 2 mining pools that control a huge amount of the hash rate. And I think the top 4 mining pools control about 83%. So that is a centralized. I mean, people can choose to point at different pools, of course, but that isn't what's happening at the moment. The US has 40% of the hash rate. I don't particularly like that. The UK has something crazy like 0.23% of the hash rate. And at some point, when these countries wake up, they're going to realize that hash rate is really important, because hypothetically, if you get over 51%, you can censor transactions. So, and Marathon have actually proven that it can be done. Then you've got the hardware issues. Everything comes from China. You've got the issues with the chips. That's there's only a couple of manufacturers with that. And
the chips for what, sorry?
That go into the miners.
Interesting, okay.
Yeah, so there's so many. And one thing I hadn't realized until recently is when you run a node and you're running it on Bitcoin Core, like everyone's talking about changing to knots now, You know, so that's a centralization risk, the software that's being used on nodes. There are so many different issues. So for me, providing the base layer is decentralized and that everything that is around the base layer is decentralized, you can build on Bitcoin and you can make it centralized, and the person using that product can choose whether or not that centralization risk is something that they want to take on based on the product that they're using.
with,
But it has to, the base layer has to stay sufficiently decentralized.
Well, thank you. I wasn't aware of any of those concerns. So yeah, it's always an education.
And then on there, you can add all these Bitcoin treasury company. They are keep hoovering up Bitcoin. So, you know, strategies, Meta Planet, they are just all buying. So
On leverage.
Exactly. So even that is kind of bringing some level of centralization as well.
I have been thinking about that. Yeah, when they end up having, I think MicroStrategy have, what, 3% or something like that, or 5%?
It's crazy, although that doesn't
of
give
all
you
Bitcoin
any...
that will ever be made.
Yeah, but those won't give you more... it won't give you more control over the network necessarily, but the concentration of wealth is a real concern for me. And I don't get excited every single time strategy buy more Bitcoin.
No, or Meta Planet.
I was getting concerned by that too. Yeah, because the concern is then you've now got massive wealth inequality. If everything does then shift to Bitcoin, it's even more extreme.
Especially where it's going, where we think it's going to go.
Yeah.
And where we actually say that Bitcoin should be empowering people. It should be the currency for everyone. That's why everybody can, you know, buy Bitcoin.
Yeah. But what happens when certain groups gobble it all up?
There'll be companies that have more money than countries in the future.
I mean, I think some do. I think MicroStrategy does already.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, it's happening.
Yeah. What time are we at? Okay, I think we've got a few minutes for one more story. This one I was interested in about the Trojan horse data. Why don't I just read it and then we'll get into it. So a new smartphone Trojan is putting crypto users at serious risk. It's called Sparkitty, and according to cybersecurity firm Kaspersky, it's already targeting phones in China and Southeast Asia. This type of malware, called a Trojan, hides inside apps that look normal. In this case, Sparkitty has been found in crypto trading apps, gambling apps, and modified versions of TikTok. Once someone installs one of these infected apps, the Trojan sneaks in using something called a provisioning profile. That's a method used to install special versions of apps, often outside the official app stores. After it's on the phone, Sparkitty asks for access to your photos, then quietly scans your gallery, looking for specific images. It uploads those photos to a remote server controlled by the attackers. Kaspersky says the goal is likely to find a screenshot of a crypto wallet seed phrase. These are a series of secret words that give full access to your crypto wallet. If someone else gets your seed phrase, they can take everything. Sparkitty is part of a growing trend. In 2024, nearly 70% of all stolen crypto, about $2.2 billion, came from attacks on infrastructure, including thefts of these seed phrases. This new Trojan is believed to be linked to an earlier spyware campaign known as SparkCat, which also used photo scanning technology to collect sensitive data from phones. Sparkitty is even more aggressive. Instead of scanning only crypto-related images, it uploads everything, presumably to sort through later using image recognition tools. It's been found on Android and iOS devices, and it's not alone. I'm just going to cut to you, ladies, and get your thoughts about this. Thoughts?
Terrifying.
Yeah.
I would say inevitable, perhaps, as well. Just please don't put your seed phrase. Don't ever take a photo of your seed phrase.
Yeah.
No. And also always try to get different factors of authentication. You can do that, so that is always safe and always recommended. It's very interesting because then what do? You know, the majority of the population that is targeted is not aware of how this works. So install a profile, I do it just because they want to get onto their app. So it's tough, but your data is not just about the crypto wallet, it's about your picture, your data. There just is something that you definitely don't want to put at risk. And with AI and deepfakes, Yeah, scary.
Yeah, it's scary.
Yeah, it goes back to like education. There needs to be so much more education about keeping ourselves safe and our assets safe and our data safe. Like there needs to be more about it. It's I get so concerned, just the hacks on people. Sometimes people get hacked, and it's like, oh, you're so stupid. How could you do that? And it's like, no, these things are becoming so sophisticated, and then this type of stuff you wouldn't even know that is happening.
No.
Yeah. Do you have? I mean, I always like to bring up just like security. You touched on earlier, just like security and safety stuff.
100%, I would say, get different ways to authenticate or enter your wallet or exchange profile. So it can't just be the password or the seed phrase. There is also you maybe have Google Authenticator code or stuff like that. So you have always multiple level of authentication to get into your account. I would definitely do that.
Were you talking earlier? Sorry if I've got that wrong. Were you talking earlier about a cold storage wallet that you had worked with? Did you touch on that earlier?
I work with a bridge.
A bridge?
And so was bridging assets from Ethereum to other EVM compatible chain. And that got hacked via phishing advert.
Interesting.
Right? And the founder click on it and he empty one wallet that had all the farm, when you were kind of like yielding your assets, so you lock your tokens in, they were, going up with the yield, and it got hacked and everything. It was a centralized breach, but we got hacked, and I lost lots of money, and many other people did as well. So that was bad.
Yeah.
2023.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
That happens a lot with those bridges, though, doesn't it? They're a real weakness. Yeah.
You're saying bridges or breaches?
Bridges.
What does that mean
It's
exactly?
like interoperability between chains.
Okay.
So you move your assets. Let's say you have Ethereum, you move it from the Ethereum chain to the Polygon chain.
And in that process,
And
that's
in
when
that
they get
process,
hacked.
the assets get locked from one side, and then they are delivered on the other side. So I think interoperability was kind of like another buzzword in
was another buzzword,
2023.
with an NFT. Yeah,
we want to
exactly.
get that interoperable with that, and Bitcoin should be interoperable with Ethereum, so you have a wrapped Bitcoin,
And that is now done. That's not what's happening anymore.
No, I think it's still alive.
But not with Bitcoin, though.
There is still wrapped Bitcoin.
Yeah,
Oh,
there's
okay.
still wrapped Bitcoin. Yeah.
What is wrapped Bitcoin?
It's just where they convert it into something different, so you can use it in like a different system. I think it could be wrapped Ethereum, I'm not sure, but when they did the US stockpile, didn't they put like some sort of wrapped Bitcoin or wrapped Ethereum in there when they created the strategic reserve, and then they had a stockpile and they had like wrapped. It's like a form of the token that is a one-on-one where you can swap it for that, but it isn't the actual asset.
Got it. Ladies, this has been so much fun. Thank you both for joining me today. Again, like these shows are just whizzing by because we have such fantastic guests. Stefania, just Susie, my head just went completely blank. I was like, how do I get her name right? Thank you for joining me today. We're going to head over to our team in the US. It's The Great Awakening with Nolan up next. We'll be back tomorrow for our last episode of the week, so please be sure to be here at 1 p.m. Thank you again. This has been fantastic. I can't wait to have you both back.
Thank you.
Actually, I will have you back tomorrow.
Yeah, and that's why it's funny you forgot my name, because I've seen you so many times. Yeah.
Sometimes it just happens. Anyway, thanks for watching.
It doesn't happen.